Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all lines are in a listen-only mode. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now, I'd like to turn the webinar over to Edward Watkins. Edward, you may begin.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on navigating the annual Integrated Economic Survey. My name is Edward Watkins again, and I'm thrilled to see such a great turnout. I see there's still a bunch of people trickling in. Thank you all for joining us today. Whether you're a seasoned data user or a potential new respondent, your participation in this survey is invaluable. We are really excited to share with you an overview and just some general guidance to assist respondents in completing this new survey. Okay, so before we dive in, I do want to touch on a couple of administrative notes. A recording of this webinar and the slide deck will be made available, I'd say in about a week. We will post that link and the recording, the link to the recording and the slide deck online on the AIES website once it is available. To uphold the confidentiality and potential survey respondents, we hold that responsibility very near and dear to us. So with that, we've had to disable the Q&A and the chat features for this webinar. So for questions that you may have that are stemming from the webinar and the discussion today, please email us. I think the email address is on your screen, but it is econ.aies.help@census.gov. And we'll address as many questions as we can in the next hour. And for those that we aren't able to get to, we will be responsive and get back to those as soon as possible. Really would like to stress that this email address is for general questions only. Please, please, please do not send company-specific information to this email address. Things like contact updates, business structural changes, things of that nature. Please don't send that here. For those sorts of inquiries and requests, please use our toll-free number. I think you'll see it throughout the presentation, but that number is 800-681-3012. And also our secure messaging portal through the collection instrument is another option for that. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. Our primary speakers for the session will be Bill Yoder and Brian Wells. They bring a to the table and they will walk us through some vital information to help you get started with the AIES. I'd also like to introduce Belinda Metcalf and Jenna Morse, who along with me will be moderating the questions that come in. And lastly, our survey director, Lisa Donaldson. So without further ado, I'd like to toss it over to Bill. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am Bill Yoder. I'm here with Brian Wells, and we are part of the team implementing the Census Bureau's new annual Integrated Economic Survey, the AIES. We are excited to have you join us today, whether you're just being introduced to the AIES or you've been following our progress over the past several years. We are especially grateful to those of you who have contributed to the development of the new system and provided feedback. While planning this webinar, we tried to focus on the topics that we thought would be most interesting and impactful to you, the AIES respondents. Today, we will summarize the purpose and benefits of the AIES, provide an overview of key dates to keep in mind, walk you through preparing and submitting your response, and introduce you to some tools and resources that will simplify the survey response process. We only have an hour or so, so in order to get through all of the materials we need to cover, we will have to defer questions to the end. As Eddie mentioned, the email address for questions is visible at the bottom of the screen. It will be on most screens as we go through the presentation. Please send any questions to that address. We have several people monitoring that account, and please help us out by phrasing any questions in a way that helps us to keep those questions anonymous. And we'll have time at the end of the presentation to address most of those questions verbally. I want to take a few minutes to give all of you some background on the history and scope of this initiative. The census conducts and publishes the results of several economic surveys each year to give Americans a rolling snapshot of many aspects of the evolving American business environment. As you see on the screen, these are the Service Annual Survey, the Manufacturer's Unfilled Order Survey, the Report of Organization, the Annual Survey of Manufacturers, the Annual Wholesale Trade Survey, the Annual Retail Trade Survey, and the Annual Capital Expenditure Survey. Historically, the data for each of these publications has been collected independently. Each was a separate survey of industry using a different data collection instrument with a different due date. But running these 7 legacy surveys independently created a lot of duplication of effort, both on the part of the census to correct, tabulate, and reconcile that data, and by you, the respondents, who often had to answer multiple surveys that were sometimes overlapping and redundant. So in 2016, the census asked the National Academy of Sciences panel to review our survey program and recommend ways we could improve efficiency and response rates, improve our products, and reduce costs. We wanted to find ways to stay relevant and to better meet the public's needs for timely, granular, and standardized data. NAS reviewed the Economic Directorate's portfolio of annual surveys and provided recommendations for how census could harmonize and simplify the questionnaires and data collection process to reduce the burden on industry, improve the effectiveness, efficiency, and quality of data sampling, estimation, imputation, disclosure control, and give data users better products that are more accessible, more easily mined, and better targeted towards what the public wants and needs. And finally, there was the most conspicuous recommendation, combining the 7 previous surveys into a single annual integrated economic survey, the AIES. Census immediately formed a team to start planning scope and figure out how to implement those recommendations. Designing and implementing the AIES has been a huge collaborative effort involving many people from across the Bureau and the whole federal government working together with the public to define requirements, test new functionality and processes, discuss and address concerns, and ultimately bring us to where we are today, launching a new integrated solution that uses cutting-edge tools to align and coordinate the survey lifecycle and broaden the depth and quality of data collection while reducing the burden on respondents. Looking at the high-level timeline on the bottom of the screen, you'll see that the development process has proceeded right on schedule. Our first data collection begins now, and the first iteration of analysis is scheduled to be released in summer 2025. And perhaps most important, we also expect the system and the data to further evolve in the years ahead, providing Census with a new foundation for introducing new and better products to better serve the public by providing more accurate, coherent, relevant, and timely economy-wide data for a broader community of data users. The Census Bureau started out sending invitations to respond to the actual survey instrument last week. All respondents will receive this invitation by physical mail, and you will also receive an email if Census has an email address for your company. You may have already received that message. The due date for the survey is April 30th, and please note, if you receive the survey questionnaire, we thank you for responding, and we want to make it as easy as possible to submit your response. So now we are going to walk through the process of responding. And after that, we'll go over some resources that will help you respond. I'm going to turn things over to Brian Wells now to give you an overview of the survey instrument and that all respondents either has received a link to or will receive a link to over the next few days. Brian?
Thanks, Bill. So I'm going to use a hypothetical company to show you a very quick peek at the AIES collection tool. There's no need to take notes or feel rushed because when I'm done, Bill is going to show you where to find all this information so that if you wish, you can go over it at your own pace. Let's say that back in 1999, in my imagination, I founded a hypothetical medium-sized census cat company. We started as a specialty cat food producer, and later we opened a retail location. And I'm excited to announce that last year I opened our first spa and resort destination. Previously, a company like mine would have been required to complete up to 5 separate surveys with 5 staggered due dates, and I might need to speak to many different census contacts throughout the year each time I had a question or they had a question for me. Now imagine the challenge this presented to companies that had to respond to all 7 surveys. Maybe some of you here today fall into that category. Well, help has arrived. AIES condenses everything down to 1 survey with 1 set of questions and 1 annual due date. It also reduces the need to deal with so many different census contacts when I need to get support or the census has questions. That's good for me, my company, and my bottom line. But before I show you the collection tool, I just need to define a term that you may have heard before, NAICS codes. The North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS, falls under the guidance of the Office of Management and Budget. Every company, including yours, has already been assigned one or several NAICS codes, even if you don't care and never know what they are. These codes help the Census Bureau, other agencies, and even some private companies like yours to conduct consistent and standardized data collection and comparison. You don't have to know your NAICS codes, but Bill and I will show you how it can benefit you if you do. Now back to my hypothetical census cat company. What NAICS code or codes apply to my company? When I started manufacturing cat food in the 90s, our manufacturing establishment was classified under NAICS code 311111. When I added the retail store, that added NAICS code 453910, and my most recent addition gave us NAICS code 812910. Census uses these NAICS codes to determine which survey questions I'll be asked to complete. Generally, the more NAICS codes, the more and more varied questions I'm asked. Census knows these NAICS codes, and they're going to ask me the questions whether I know them or not. Basically, nothing bad happens if I don't know my NAICS codes ahead of time, or ever. But something good can come if I know them beforehand. In a minute, Bill's going to show you how to get your codes and then how to use them to view and download a complete list of every AIES survey question you'll be asked. You may even decide to do that right after this presentation if you want. But maybe you're like me and you're a procrastinator, and you'll just wait until you log into Census to find out what questions you'll be asked. That's okay too. In my case, I won't take my own advice. I won't look up my NAICS codes, so I won't have previewed my questions. That means that what I see on this screen now reflects everything I know about the survey that I'm about to take. Not to worry, once my census letter or email arrives, I'll sign into the portal, enter the included authorization code, and then I'll select Report Now to start. The Report Now option starts walking me logically through the survey questions that apply to me based on those NAICS codes that I never looked at. Since I'm only just now starting the work of collecting response data, I'll probably need to return to this page many times so I can view more questions and put in more answers prior to the submission deadline. We can see right here at the initial login menu that I also have options to request a filing extension or to provide access to other people in my company I may want to help me with a survey. And I can get support from Census via secure messages or by phone. I'll let Bill show you those again in a few minutes, but first let's look at the AIES collection tool. So finally, here's what I see after I select Report Now. I see the AIES collection tool that's ready to walk me through a logical three-step process, and it does this regardless of how simple or complex my company or my survey questions may be. 3 steps, once yearly, with one deadline. Let's look at step 1. First, notice that each step can have multiple tabs, so it's important to select, review, and complete each tab, or you won't have finished the survey. For step 1, all the real work happens in the Verify Location tab that we see here. Feedback that we got from earlier survey participants just like you, probably some of you here today, told us that you wanted more flexibility to review, confirm, and update your location information easily and directly. Companies with multiple establishments and locations ask to be able to filter their locations by state, zip code, and other factors, and they wanted to be able to add and correct locations without having to contact Census support. Some participants asked for the option to download their details to a local spreadsheet so they could review and update their locations offline and then re-upload the correct answers. In my own Census Cat company, Step 1 presents me with an online spreadsheet listing all my company's locations and establishments as recorded at Census. White fields are editable and grayed out fields are view only. In the column at the far right, I can see my NAICS codes in case I'm interested. As you can see, I only have 3 locations, so I'm just going to review and make any needed corrections right here on the screen in the white fields. Someday, when I've expanded Census Cat Company into every market, state, and territory, I'll want to download the Step 1 spreadsheet, review and update that, and then return to the AIES collection tool to upload. After I've completed step 1, AIES takes me to step 2, where it collects company-level data such as total company revenue, employment, payroll, capital expenditures, and assets. Based on our research and what you asked for, we now take the information you provide in steps 1 and 2 to make things easier for you in the next step. For example, AIES pre-populates some of the step 3 fields with answers you provide in steps 1 and 2. It also uses those answers to refine and focus which survey questions it asks you in step 3. Now I see the first step 2 form I'm asked to complete. It's pretty straightforward, and once I fill it out and select Save and Continue, AIES will present me with a series of other similar, straightforward forms asking me the rest of my step 2 questions, things like my company's revenue and assets. Now finally we arrive at step 3, the meat and potatoes of data collection, and this is where many respondents asked us to streamline things where possible and to add some functionality. We've cleaned up some of the survey forms and given you access right on the screen when you want to detailed instructions for questions that most often generate requests for more help or guidance. We also offer every respondent 2 options for collection entry. Any respondent can use either method, so it's your choice based on your specific circumstances or preferences. Some smaller companies, especially those with just a few enterprises like mine, opt to respond completely online via the AIES interface. Other companies, even some small ones, may opt to download their spreadsheet so they can research and record their answers offline. That option makes it easy for me to use copy and paste and drag and drop as I create my answers, and this is a great option for any companies with cybersecurity or other technical issues that restrict who and when they can access the census website. It lets me divide and distribute sets of questions for different employees or departments, and I can control which employees see sensitive or confidential information. Now in a minute, Bill will show you how to download a preview list of questions even before you start your survey. You would have done that long before you'd see this Step 3 page. If you download the Step 3 spreadsheet here, you can enter your answers offline and then return later to upload your Step 3 spreadsheet responses directly into the AIES collection tool. You can't do that with a preview spreadsheet, however. Those are only used to give you an early peek at what you'll be asked in Step 3. Please note the multiple tabs at the top. Again, it's critical to view and complete each tab. In this view, we're looking at the Detailed Data tab, and the same basic process applies. Review the gray fields, complete the white fields, and then save the changes. Everyone sees this Product Data Manufacturing Only tab, but its fields will be grayed out if you're not a manufacturer. If you do have a manufacturing component, complete this tab like all the others. Check Data reviews your responses across all tabs in Step 3 and identifies any fields that you may have missed or that need your attention. Once you've addressed any concerns, select Save and Continue. I hope this very quick preview of the AIES collection tool was helpful and not too rushed. If it seemed that way, Bill is going to show you some web-based and other resources available for you to access and review at your own pace. He'll also show you how to find your NAICS codes and how to use them to download that advanced list of your company's survey questions. You can start reviewing them today if you like and get a head start. Okay, that's all for me. Now back to Bill.
Thank you, Brian. Before I tell you about the resources available to help you fill out your survey, the panel monitoring our Q&A inbox has asked me to remind those of you submitting questions not to include any company-specific information. We've received several emails asking about your company's previous submissions or updating company contact information. Unfortunately, our team can't respond to those requests. The email listed on the bottom of the screen is only for generic questions about the survey. So please submit those questions using the 800 number or the secure link on the website that Brian mentioned earlier, and I will show you how to find later in a few minutes. The Census Bureau is providing several resources to help you complete your survey. These include a variety of instructional videos and multiple pathways for getting help. I want to take a few minutes to introduce some of the key resources that are available to help you prepare your response. Most of these resources are available through the AIES website. Many of you are already familiar with this website, which was launched in December 2022 and has been used to keep the public informed of our progress throughout development. It's now being updated to provide new tools for respondents. The website still provides links to relevant Federal Register notices, information about the legacy annual survey's transition to AIES, and other related information that's framed in red here. The site also provides information about the methodology we use for sample design, and you can geek out on that and access it by following the links to technical documentation, which are framed here in yellow. What is most relevant to most of you, though, is the new Information for Respondents link. This link provides tools to help you formulate your response, and as this slide shows, this is where you go when you are ready to report, and it is where you will find all of the resources I am about to summarize. When you click on the Information for Respondents tab, two of the first items you will see are the content summary and the instruction manual. The content summary provides a high-level summary of the survey's structure and content. The instruction manual provides more detailed guidelines for gathering and inputting your data. And both the content summary and the instruction manual follow a similar format and use similar conventions. In the reference key on the right of the screen, you see some of these conventions available to help you navigate the tool. For example, specific icons have been used to mark the questions for each trade, and every topic or subtopic in both the content summary and the instruction manual will be labeled with an icon indicating the applicable industry or trades. There's another convention worth noting. Questions in italics are only asked of a subset of industries within a trade. For example, there may be questions that are not asked for all manufacturers, but are only asked for manufacturers of cat toys. The information requested and the questions asked in the AICS are largely based on the questions asked in legacy surveys. So if you're familiar with any of those legacy surveys, those questions may be very familiar. The content summary provides a list of those questions, all of the information that will be collected for each trade and industry. It lists all of the categories of information that will be collected at each level. All trade will get company level questions and ownership questions. And you see icons for all those industry groups at the top of the screen here, showing that these questions apply to all of these industries. At the lower part of the screen, below the company level content, you will see a heading for detailed employment and payroll, and that's associated with the M icon. This shows you that only manufacturing industries will get this set of questions. And finally, over on the right-hand side of the screen, you see a list of special items, questions listed under the heading Truck Transportation Industries. Notice that these questions are listed in italics. This means that not all the service trades get those questions, only the truck transportation industries. Trucking is just an example. Many other industries will also get targeted questions. These will always be listed in italics here. Now let's look at the instruction manual. The instruction manual provides more details about each of the requested categories of information, and it provides instructions for what data you are expected to provide with each response. While the content summary provides a listing of the information required for each industry, the instruction manual provides detailed instructions of what that information should and should not include. I'll just point out a couple of things about the instruction manual. First, in the table of contents, there are 3 items that are specific to the instruction manual and not included in the content summary. For example, information about validity, the burden statement, and definitions of the collection units are provided here. Once you get past those items, you will get to the specific data items which can be navigated through hyperlinks. This is the information in the instruction manual, but not in the content summary. Here you see an example of the additional detail you can find in the instruction manual regarding detailed information about the costs of fringe benefits. Looking at this example, you can see that the information that is required includes insurance premiums, employer costs for pension plans, defined contribution plans, and fringe benefits, and it also lists what to exclude from your submission, employee contributions and disbursements from funds to satisfy insurance claims. Another useful set of tools you can access from the web page is a set of how-to videos and instructional PDFs. These provide a robust set of tutorials and printable instructions for how to complete various aspects of the survey. These go through everything that Brian described in more detail and provide additional guidance as well. This page is still being updated to reflect the 2023 AIES, but all of the videos have been updated to reflect the new release, and many PDFs have been posted. The Census Bureau is still working to update all of the additional PDFs, and new ones will be posted over the next couple of weeks. Many of you may find the question preview tool to be the most helpful of all these resources. The question preview tool can be used to get a preview of the specific survey that companies like your own will be asked to answer. It is not required, but many of you will find it very valuable to help you prepare your response. The preview tool has two primary uses. You can use it to find your NAICS code, and you can use it to preview the questions that will be asked of trades and industries within a particular NAICS code. As Brian mentioned, everything in the system is organized by NAICS code, and you need to know your NAICS code to navigate the question preview tool. Many of you already know your business's NAICS code, but if you don't, the census provides 3 ways you can find it. 2 of these use the question preview tool. I will demonstrate both of these techniques in a second, but before I do, I want to clarify. You don't need to know your NAICS code before you start to submit your response, but you will need to know your NAICS code to use the question preview tool. And the preview tool provides 2 ways to look it up. The first method of searching for NAICS code is to climb down the hierarchy until you find the right code. When you open the preview tool, you will see a pick list of high-level codes, 1 for each trade. Just pick the code that seems most applicable and proceed down the tree until you find the code that best fits your business. For example, if you are looking for manufacturers of cat food, you would select manufacturing, food manufacturing, and dog and cat food manufacturing to find your NAICS code 31111. Once you find your NAICS code, you can use the tab at the top of the screen to reveal the establishment questions, the industry questions, and the company questions that will be asked for that NAICS code. The second way to find your NAICS code is the search method. Enter the trade or industry you're looking for in the search box at the top of the screen. For example, if you're searching for cat food manufacturers, you might type food and click the magnifying glass to search. This will generate a pick list of options, and you can simply scroll through that list to select the NAICS code which best fits your business. Once you find the NAICS code you want, simply click on the questions tabs at the top of the screen to display the lists of questions for that NAICS code. A couple of things you should be aware of with the search tool. You may need to scroll down the pick list to see all of the results and find the NAICS code you're looking for, and whatever keyword you input needs to precisely match the language used in the NAICS code. For example, you won't find cat food if you type feline, or even if you type cats with an S. If you already know your NAICS code, you can simply input that NAICS code in the search box and select from the tabs at the top of the screen to pull down and preview your survey questions. You can also retrieve questions for multiple NAICS codes at once if you find that helpful. And you may find that helpful if your enterprise crosses multiple trades or industries, such as the illustration that Brian showed you earlier. A couple of other features of the question preview tool are worth noting. First, when you pull down your questions, you will notice that some of them include an eye icon. This means that there is more information available to answer your question. When you click the eye, an information box will pop up. For example, you can get a reminder about what NAICS codes are being displayed if you had selected multiple ones, or instructions on what information you should or should not provide for each question. I also want to point out the 3 buttons on the top of the screen. The one on the right, the download button, is probably the most important. You can use this to download all the selected questions and their definitions into a spreadsheet. This allows you to collect data offline, share the spreadsheet with co-workers who need to provide data, etc. And later you can input that information directly into the AIES survey instrument. Note that you cannot upload directly from this spreadsheet into the instrument. Unlike the downloading process that Brian described earlier, this is only for a preview that you can use offline while you gather information. You cannot use it for data input. Continuing right to left at the top of the screen, you will see the Instructions tab. This will return you to the instruction screen that we showed you before. And finally, you will see a tab that brings you to the frequently asked questions. I should note that the Census Bureau is still developing this list of questions and responses. Our intent is for this list to reflect the questions that we receive most frequently. The AIES has been thoroughly tested, but it is still a new tool, and we are still learning which questions will be most useful to answer here. So this list may evolve. In fact, you are helping to develop that tool right now. Later today and this week, we will be going through the questions that have been input during this webinar to determine whether any should be added to our list of frequently asked questions. The last tool I want to go over is the AIES landing screen, the first screen you see after you log into the system to input your data. Brian showed you this screen earlier, but I want to remind you of some of the links that are here to help you. Here, you can request an extension if you need one. You can check your filing status, or you can access FAQs. If you need to send a question or a message to Census staff, you can do so here. For example, if you need to update your company's contact information or other company information, or you need to ask a question about your own company's response, this is the place to do that. The screen also gives you the phone number of the help desk, which is available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Live links to all of these tools will be made readily available to help you throughout the process. And of course, all of these resources can be accessed right now through the website, census.gov/AIES. That concludes our presentation. I'm sure you still have a lot of questions, and I know that a lot of you have submitted and may still be submitting questions using the email address at the bottom of the page. Our panel has been reviewing these questions and flagging many for verbal response. In a few minutes, the panel will respond to as many of those questions as possible. So I'd like to kick off our Q&A segment by turning things over to Lisa Donaldson, Chief of the Economy-Wide Statistics Division, who will make a few remarks before turning it over to our panelists to answer your questions. Lisa?
Thanks, Bill. I want to thank the presenters. I do want to thank all of you for staying with us. We have done a lot of work, and it's culminating in the mail out that Brian mentioned that began Friday of last week. So we look forward to hearing feedback and the questions from you. You all, respondents to the program, are contributing to vital statistics that we produce at the Census Bureau. And I want to underscore the importance of that, because it really is, it's vital to the work that we're doing and the statistics we're providing to the public. So I want to thank all of you for that in advance. And we will be sending out some data nuggets so that you guys, as data is produced, so that you can kind of see the data that's being produced out of AIES. So it has been a lot of work, and we have prepared a lot of tools, many of which were reviewed today, in order to prepare you and your companies for response to the program. But we do understand there may be gaps in some of those things at times. And we look for feedback from all of you. Keep the questions coming. As mentioned, this is an evolving process, and we're hoping to improve this as we go into the following years of the program. This is a first in a very long time effort at Census to really put respondent concerns first and foremost. And we are really working to ensure that we incorporate feedback on an iterative basis. So please keep that in mind. I'm going to turn things over now to the panel, and they're going to answer some of the questions that you guys have been graciously sending in. And thanks again for your attendance.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Our company operates on a fiscal year. Do I have to report calendar year? Okay. So calendar year data are preferred. However, if unavailable, please report for the full fiscal year. That includes at least 6 months of data for the calendar year. That makes some sense. Will there be new questions in the AIS that we have never seen before? Short answer is no. The AIS does not include new questions. What we have done is pull content from the legacy surveys, and those were integrated into the AIS. They may look a little bit different because what we did in culling that together is looked at overlap and tried to make sure that we were asking the same thing across surveys. It actually is one of the benefits of doing this. We kind of noticed that there was overlap and we were asking the same thing over and over again. So we kind of went through some tedious work of consolidating questions and making it such that it could be one question and not, answering the same thing over and over again. So again, we've standardized the language where we could. So it might look slightly different, but for the most part, there are no brand new questions for the AIS. What else here? Oh, this is probably an essential one. What if I don't get an authentication code? Okay. So letters and emails are being distributed. The mail, I think we mailed our last batch, initial letters today, this morning. No, yesterday. I'm sorry, yesterday. And emails are still trickling out. I think we sent a batch Monday, yesterday. A batch went out this morning, and then I think another batch will go out tomorrow. So if you haven't received those yet, they will get there. And if you still in a couple days are concerned and you haven't gotten that first, we appreciate your concern and wanting to get that and get that filled out for us. I just invite you to call our helpline at 1-800-681-3012. And again, I think Bill mentioned this, and I mentioned that number at the beginning. Our office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 8, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, and someone should be able to help you with that number. Can I move back and forth between steps in the collection instrument? Whoever asked this question is astute, and they were part of earlier iterations of the survey. Yes, we definitely improved the functionality. So for folks that weren't involved in earlier iterations of this, you're in luck. You don't have to deal with this. So you will be able to move back and forth between steps pretty seamlessly. I think that's a big enhancement and improvement from where we were before, and will make navigating throughout the instrument a lot easier. Okay, I will take a break for a second and allow Belinda and Jenna to handle a couple more questions that they're seeing coming in. Thanks.
Jump in here. I know this has been mentioned, but we've gotten questions about it with the survey due date. So it will be due on April 30th. And people ask if they can get an extension. So yes, when you log into the respondent portal at portal.census.gov, there is an option to request an extension there. Another thing about the respondent portal, we get questions about delegating the survey if you want other employees in the company to be able to answer some of the questions. When you log into that respondent portal, there's also an option to delegate the survey or share access with other employees in your company so that you can have multiple folks filling out the information. If I have responded to a Census Bureau survey in the past, do I need to create a new account? No, you do not. You can use your existing account. However, you will need your authorization code that was sent via email or letter. And again, like Eddie said, mail just finished up yesterday and emails are still going out through tomorrow. So if you haven't gotten that yet, just give it a few days and you should have that information to be able to log in. Can I get the contact information of individuals in my company that completed the legacy annual surveys in the past? So the surveys that this is covering, other people might have completed that survey in the past. So yes, in most cases, you should be able to get the contact information of the individuals for that company or for your company that historically completed that survey. If you call the customer helpline that Eddie mentioned, the 800 number, they should be able to get you in the right direction to get that information. And just to reiterate, the surveys that are covered here, I know we've asked, like, is the annual business survey part of this? And the answer to that is no. Annual business survey is separate. We cover the annual capital expenditure survey, annual retail trade, annual survey of manufacturers, annual wholesale trade survey, manufacturers unfilled order survey, the report of organization, and the service annual survey. I know we've been asked in the past, and I see an email here about seeing a list of companies that received the AIES. We are not allowed to give out that information. The U.S. Census Bureau is barred from releasing any information that could identify any individual, business, organization, or institution, and we do tightly safeguard confidentiality using very strong, ever-improving cybersecurity measures. So that information is not shared. We take that very seriously. And I know some people have said, can I access today? If you have your authorization code, you can go ahead and get in and begin reporting. So we launched officially this past Friday on the 15th. So the instrument is available. If you have that survey invitation, if you've already gotten the letter or the email, you should be able to jump right in and get started. If you have trouble with that, please reach out so we can get that resolved for you. I have a question about what if my company closed in 2023? You will be asked to update this type of information within the collection instrument. So go ahead, access the instrument. You can report partial year data for 2023. You can report other structural organizational changes there, as well as provide contact updates. So again, once you get your code, go in, you can provide all that information there, and we will get that processed as soon as we can. Sorry, Eddie, I'm just walking away with it. Go ahead and jump in if you want.
No, I was trying to give you a breather. Someone's already got started here. Here's one in the spreadsheet. What does it mean that the cells are shaded in gray? So if cells are shaded in gray in the spreadsheet option, that means that a response is not required for that particular item. Okay, survey delegation first. Yes, you are allowed to delegate the survey to others within your organization. To do that, when you log into the respondent portal at portal.census.gov, there should be an option that allows you to delegate the survey or share access with other employees across the company or within your company. Someone asked about a recording of today's webinar. As Lisa said, we're going to try to get that out to you within a week.
Eddie, I've got one here.
Okay.
How can I get updates or current information regarding the AIES? So there is a link available on census.gov/AIES where people can respond or they can subscribe for AIES updates. So these will be updates and news and promotional activity around the AIES that will be sent to your email address if you do subscribe. So that is an option to stay informed on the activities around the AIES. We've also had some questions come in asking again for the due date for the AIES. So as a reminder, the due date for the AIES is April 30th, 2024. And then we've gotten a few questions around what if we don't keep our data in the same format that the Census Bureau is asking for the data, or if we have not finalized our 2023 data. And so for that, the Census Bureau does accept estimates for survey data. So estimates are acceptable if you could submit those. Another question that's coming in is when will the Census Bureau begin releasing AIES data? So our tentative release date for the 2023 AIES will be in the summer of 2025. That's when we will begin releasing the data.
Touch really quick on NAICS code, because I know we've had several emails come in regarding NAICS code. If the NAICS code is incorrect in the collection instrument, you actually won't be able to change that NAICS code in the collection instrument. However, we do have remarks sections built in to where you can alert us to that potential issue. And then we can go and research. And if we find that NAICS code needs to be updated, we will do so. And then as far as the question preview tool that Brian and Bill were showing earlier, the NAICS codes are updated every 5 years. And the AIES right now is based on a 2017 NAICS. So AIES won't move to the 2022 NAICS codes for a few more years. So please make sure that you're using a valid code from the 2017 NAICS and not the 2022 NAICS. So if you go in there and search around, again, if you have questions, you can always reach out the helpline.
And I know that I believe it has been touched on, but we are getting quite a few questions where people are saying that they haven't received their invitation to respond yet. Just know that our mail out operations began on Friday, March 15th, but they are going to continue through the end of this week. So it's very possible that you will get a letter towards the end of this week or early next week. Email operations will also conclude this week. So by the end of this week, if we have an email address on file for your company, then you should receive your email by the end of this week as well. Now, there are a lot of companies where we don't have an email address on file. So just because you didn't get an email, you'll still want to look for that letter in the mail.
I do see an email asking about a password reset that they logged in yesterday. So for the survey, when you receive your letter either by mail or email, you'll receive a code that will allow you to access the survey. I hope that that is what you're talking about in terms of a password. It'll be a new code. It won't be the same code that you've gotten in the past. So hopefully that answered that question. If not, maybe we can follow up or give you a call, get you on the phone, and get more specificity as to what exactly you mean by your question.
And one more follow-up I have. So I did just get an email asking if the primary contact for the survey will still have access if it's delegated to another person. And that answer is yes. They will have access.
All right, we have quite a few more questions. However, it is also 11:58. We are mindful that you all are busy folks, and we want to be mindful of that and not take too much of your time. We just wanted to thank you again for your interest and your participation today. As we said, we will do our best to be responsive to all the emails that came in. And again, if you got questions, as Lisa said, keep them coming. We really appreciate everything, your time and your patience. And I think with that, we will bid you all adieu. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.